If you look at the character questions, the temperament questions, the qualified questions, bad for Trump. But problem number one, and the reason he had to come, I endorse Paul Ryan, is that he's not getting Republicans. A lot of Republicans are saying, we can't vote for our guy. If you can't consolidate your base after your convention, that's a flashing red trouble sign.
Well, that's a big problem for Trump, that he's not consolidating the Republican Party, and we all know why that is happening. He's been at war with the Republican Party since he started this campaign. I actually think it's just as significant, just as problematic, that he's not getting any Democrats, because the theory of the case for Trump has been that he's going to win all these disaffected Democrats. In states like Pennsylvania,
there's all
you can't
win the Rust Belt without
Democrats voters who are disenchanted with the Democratic Party, even though they're still registered there, and they're going to flock to Trump. There's no evidence that he's getting that crossover vote from Democrats at this point.
Yeah, I mean, in the down-ticket impact of this is so significant if these numbers stay. Of course, they probably will tighten up, presumably, and especially after the debates. That's going to be the next opportunity to really reset the narrative here. But the down-ticket impact is what's scaring so many of the Republicans. The real fear is that if he's 8, 10 points, 12 points behind Hillary in a lot of these states, those close Senate races are in deep, deep trouble. Look at Kelly Ayotte in New Hampshire, down 10 points in that most recent poll, and Donald Trump also down by double digits.
Well, let's listen to Trump. This is Friday night in Green Bay, where Trump seems to be acknowledging that he has a problem, that he's not building a big coalition, and he goes back to a Republican icon to say, I want to do this too.
I understand and embrace the wisdom of Ronald Reagan's big tent within the party. Big tent. Remember? Ronald Reagan. Great man. Great guy. Remember, he included Reagan Democrats and independents and Republicans. A lot of people. We're going to have the same thing.
We're going to have the same thing. He does not have at the moment. And again, stylistically, watching Trump reading so much. That is not the Donald Trump who we saw at the big rallies who won the Republican nomination. But it is the Donald Trump that his campaign says is necessary to keep him on a more disciplined message.
Well, and that's the question, is can he stay on that?
Long pause when you raise the question of discipline in Donald Trump.
Well, that's the question. He can be disciplined. Right. He obviously can be when he wants to, when he's focused to, maybe when he's told he has to. But, you know, people, somebody in the Clinton campaigns told me months and months ago when we were talking about Trump, you know, what's the most damaging thing he's done? And they said, well, the most damaging thing he's done is the thing he hasn't done yet. Is that because he doesn't have the discipline to sort of stay on message, and that there always seems to be something else around the corner. Now, who knows? I mean, we're in August. We have a long way to go, as you said. So, but I don't know that we can really count on the fact that he's going to continue to read what's been written for him.
I mean, real discipline is not, reading once something that's in front of you. It's doing it when you're off script. How do you stick to the message when nobody's watching, when nobody's giving you something to read? That's a real issue. To a point Molly made earlier about white college-educated voters, when we think about women in suburban areas, one of the biggest switches from the CNN poll that had Trump up after his convention to the one where he's down by a lot now was these white college-educated voters. And that is something that's really interesting because people might dismiss that and say, well, sure, white college-educated voters should go for Hillary Clinton. Democrats haven't won white college-educated voters since 1976 when exit polls began. So if that's something that Donald Trump is having a problem with, and those voters are moving toward Hillary Clinton, that's a huge issue for him.
Right, and so the Clinton campaign sees this environment. And so they're trying to stress he's unfit, he's not a commander-in-chief, reach out to independents and Republicans, including an advertisement that try to find a Democrat in this ad.
If he governs consistent with some of the things he's said as a candidate, I would be very frightened.
This is not somebody who should be handed the nuclear codes.
You have to ask yourself, do I want a person of that temperament control the nuclear codes? And as of now, I'd have to say no.
Conservative voices, conservative faces. This is a calculated effort by the Clinton campaign. I don't think they're going to get a ton of Republican votes in the end, but essentially to use Republican and conservative voices saying it's not us. It's not us Democrats saying that Trump's unfit to be commander-in-chief. These are supposed to be his friends.
There's a potential risk there, right, that by leaning so heavily on conservative voices, you alienate some of those Bernie Sanders supporters, that there are liberals that Hillary Clinton also needs, her base in the Democratic Party, who are going to say, well, I don't want a candidate endorsed by or quasi-endorsed by Charles Krauthammer, but she appears to be confident enough that support is coming home to her, that she is going to the middle of the electorate, to these kinds of suburban voters, educated voters, who are deeply put off by what they see as the instability of Trump and his campaign.
And one of the interesting things coming out of the Democratic convention that the Wall Street Journal NBC poll this last week showed was that Democrats changed their attitudes dramatically about sort of how they feel about just sort of the political situation overall. Like on this classic question of whether you believe the country's on the right track or the wrong track, going the right direction or the wrong track, they swung wildly from being very Democrats now, pessimistic about the country, to afterwards 58% saying we're going in the right direction. So Democrats, and obviously Hillary Clinton looking for a third Democratic term, always a challenge. That's her. She needs at least the Democratic Party to feel good about where they are, and it seems like she accomplished some of that.